So, folks, we got to talk about Project 2029 because, as I have talked about it already, we actually have our first fully solid bowel movement from this organization, and it is shit. Let's take a look here. Democrats' Project 2029 goes after tech companies with online safety plan. And yeah, essentially, their first proposal is the kids over clicks proposal. Well, you could go over here and read it. The typical American teen spends about 5 hours a day on social media, and nearly 1 in 3 kids demonstrates an addictive pattern of social media use by the time they finish middle school. One researchers have linked to higher rates of anxiety, depression, and suicidal ideation. At the same time, they've grown lonelier, while reading and math scores have fallen sharply. For generations, government has stepped in to keep addictive products like tobacco and alcohol out of young people's hands. And from cribs to car seats to bike helmets, the physical products in a kid's life have to pass federal safety tests. It's time we hold the digital products in their lives to the same standard and implement a comprehensive online safety agenda that puts kids over clicks. And it's just like, in a time where working class people are struggling harder than ever before to make ends meet, and some people are having to take on 2-3 jobs in order to pay their rent and buy food. In a time where like half of US households aren't able to pay for the basic necessities of life, where people are having to pay like in installments for their groceries because they can't afford upfront payments. This is it.
Gotta go, keep up the bit and have some cash.
Anime Sidekick Gal, thank you for the $50 super chat. Very much appreciated. Thank you for helping to support this show. Appreciate you. This is dog shit. Like, this is your top priority? This is the one proposal you guys could come up with first? Let's take a look. Okay, we'll skip past the problem. Let's get to the solution, right? Age restrictions. Wow, nobody's ever tried that before. Lawmakers should ban social media platforms from opening accounts for children up to age 16. By keeping the youngest users off these platforms entirely, this approach buys time for adolescent brains to develop the cognitive defenses needed to navigate platforms built around addictive design. These restrictions are similar to a Florida law that received overwhelming bipartisan support and similar measures that have already been implemented in Australia. Many other countries have also taken steps toward implementing age restrictions for social media, as has the European Union. Age restrictions have been an important public policy tool to protect minors from dangerous but legal conduct in many areas. Tobacco, driving, gambling, etc. This policy is not a silver bullet. Yes, some kids will use VPNs and other mechanisms to get around the ban, just as some kids buy fake IDs to buy beer at a liquor store. And any age restrictions must be carefully tailored to balance legitimate privacy and civil liberties concerns, as New York Attorney General Letitia James recently demonstrated in her proposed rulemaking to implement the Stop Addictive Feeds Exploitation Safe for Kids Act. Now, I want to stop and talk about this for a second, right? Because having age restrictions doesn't work. And we know it doesn't work because, frankly, in places where these bans have been passed, kids just figure out what works. They draw mustaches on themselves and pass like age verification tests. They figured out ways around this. It's not difficult. And the problem, I think, here is that when we are looking at the problem to me, even in this specific area where they are talking about solutions, and they highlight it right here. This approach buys time for adolescent brains to develop the cognitive defenses needed to navigate platforms built around addictive design. Maybe the problem isn't children's brains. Maybe the problem is addictive design elements being implemented in social media. Because, frankly, there's nothing that is going to stop teens from accessing social media, right? They'll just go to less effective, less safe forms of social media, right? Like if we look at the UK, for example, a bunch of major social media platforms are banned, but a bunch of smaller ones and up and coming ones are not. And so what winds up happening is you just find kids moving to less safe and less controlled environments. And so the solution to me, very clearly, is that the companies putting together these social media algorithms and timelines, etc., should be the ones responsible for making sure their algorithms aren't addictive. Because guess what? The entire notion here that like, oh, well, the children's brains are uniquely susceptible to being addicted, that might be true, but adult brains are also really susceptible to getting addicted to things. And that's if you even buy the entire argument that like social media itself is addictive. And granted, I do believe it is built around, these addictive mechanisms to keep people scrolling for as long as possible. It's how they make money, right? And so the entire thing here shouldn't be, well, we'll just ban children from social media. The solution here is ban companies from making their algorithms so addictive. Like that's the solution is the people building the product, right? Like when you're regulating gambling, for example, you aren't saying to people, well, you generally speaking, there are reasons we restrict gambling to certain establishments, to certain places. Though I suppose that's a increasingly poor example since airports are getting like slot machines and shit. But like it used to be that you were only able to gamble at a casino, right? And like it just kind of seems to me like that was a great way of putting the impetus for controlling gambling and controlling the gambling systems on the place that was actually the only establishment that could do gambling legally. And so it just kind of seems like the solution here shouldn't be everyone has to act as if they are a suspect in a police state system, and instead the onus should be on the companies to manage their own shit. But I guess the 2029 Democrats don't really want to coalesce behind have companies mind their manners and instead want to punish everybody. But that's just me. That's one element of this, of course. Privacy by default and safety by design. Lawmakers should provide privacy by default, safety by design protections, drawing on models already in place in Maryland, Nebraska, Vermont, and South Carolina. These protections are common sense, opening new accounts with the highest privacy settings by default, restricting addictive features, banning manipulative design tactics, enforcing strict data minimization and privacy practices, disabling private messaging from strangers unless a user knowingly opts and accepts them, providing for timely account deletion, and publishing clear policies for users to understand their rights and options. Now, like, the problem with this is that these are fine, but these don't tackle the underlying issue. Like, these are basically best practices for social media websites, but also it doesn't solve the underlying problem of these services being predatory and trying to take up more and more of your time. And it just kind of seems to me that when we're looking at this, the obvious solution is data privacy laws. Your data privacy should be more protected than it is. But when it comes to this in particular, enforcing strict data minimization and privacy practices, that's not the same as having your data be protected as yours, right? The EU, since we're already clearly looking around the world for inspiration on this policy, the EU has policies in place to protect your data. In the United States, we have not followed that example. It's why your data is available from all the data brokers all the time. It's why if somebody knows your name, they might be able to find out where you live with just a few key searches. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Rules of the road for AI chatbots. Generative AI chatbots, consumer-facing AI systems that can hold conversations, role-play characters, and answer the kind of questions previously brought to search engines are fundamentally new and our laws have not caught up. The problem is not with children having access to AI chatbots. The problem is the AI chatbots. The problem is you can play around with an AI chatbot until you've basically broken it, and then it will just tell you whatever you want to hear. And this is not unique to children interacting with AI chatbots. It happens with all people who interact with AI chatbots. We know that because we have, this AI psychosis going around where people are literally being driven crazy by interacting with AI as if it's people. Jack, you're asking liberals to go against their corporate donors. That's like asking a fish to not to swim. Well, that is what I'm asking Democrats to do. The fact that this is the first thing being proposed by Project 2029 honestly makes me think that the people behind Project 2029 are just companies like Meta and companies like OpenAI and their lobbyists trying to write favorable legislation that puts the onus on individual users as opposed to their own companies. And this, I think, is devastating, Bell-to-bell cell phone bans. College professors find themselves shortening class readings to adjust students' fleeting attention spans. The available causal evidence, most of it from schools that banned phones before their neighbors did, point in one direction. When the phones go away, students' learning experience improves. Lawmakers should create a national standard for bell-to-bell cell phone bans in schools, building on the laws that 35 states and D.C. have passed to limit cell phone use in the classroom. While many of these laws are just beginning to take effect, early observations suggest that removing cell phones from the classroom can lead to improved academic outcomes and richer social interaction between classes. 1 year into a cell phone ban, a school district in Dallas, Texas saw a nearly 25% increase in library books being checked out. And yeah, that should already be a policy, right? It should be the policy that when you're in school, you're paying attention in class. That's good. But the thing I can't get over is that this is the first policy you're putting forward to fix America. We have a huge sea of fires going on in every policy direction possible, and this is the first one you put out. And the other aspect to this that I can't get over is that while I agree that this should be a thing, I don't necessarily think that it should be coming from the federal government as a law. This should be something that states decide. This should be something that school districts decide. This should be something that everyone can get on the same page about in a community. When I think about where this policy should be coming from, it should be coming from school districts and the parents that live in them. Because this is a policy that can only really succeed with the assistance of parents. And I'm real nervous about a federal law, specifically as it relates to the school to prison pipeline in particular, right? That's what I'm worried about. And so while I agree, hey, we shouldn't have phones out in the classroom, that's something you need all parties on board with. Yeah, parents would indeed need to parent as part of this solution, right? Now, the next part, launch a free-to-be kids campaign, a smartphone-free childhood until age 14. Ask parents of a tween whether they want their kid to have a smartphone, and most will say no. Ask whether their kid has one anyway, most will say yes. It's a collective action problem. Once one kid in a friend group or class gets a smartphone, the rest follow. No individual family can fix this phenomena alone. New law isn't needed. Rather, the next administration can use already available tools to empower parents on something most families already want but cannot enforce alone. The Surgeon General could issue formal guidance on screen time and smartphone use, and the federal government should begin publishing regular national data on children's smartphone use, social media use, and the time spent with AI chatbots so the American public can see what's happening to children's attention as clearly as it sees the unemployment rate or the inflation index. Now, I do want to say, this seems weird. Right? Which is, like, I don't think the solution here is, oh, well, we need a Surgeon General's warning about this, and we need national data collection on this. Like, if anything, just have and I'm just spitballing here, if you need to do something that requires resources, put out a fucking flip phone. Have like a government, endorsed flip phone that parents can buy. Because guess what? There's nothing wrong with having a phone that just allows you to call other people. Because you know what? That's not going to have kids using that in class. And when we're looking at this, like, oh man, we don't want our kids to have smartphones, then don't buy them a fucking smartphone. Like, this infuriates me. Oh man, but they really want one. Tough nuts. I can't help it. It just kind of is like, well, but what if your kid really, really, really wants one because all of his friends have one? Be a fucking parent. Put on your big boy pants and say, no. Sorry, that might be really disappointing. Have a conversation with your child about why you don't want them to have a smartphone, and then stand by that decision. Buy like a cheap $30 phone that only allows you to call other people, that doesn't have texting. That way they have an emergency contact device, but they can't be looking up shit on the internet. Problem solved. Kids claim they'll get bullied for a flip phone. I don't think that's true. I think kids are going to be fucking cool for having flip phones. You know why? Because flip phones were fucking cool and are still fucking cool. I like the form factor of them. But anyway, I think that there is room for this to be a parent and to say, dismantle. Also, the last one, the president should issue a primetime address on the topic, and the White House could lead coordinated outreach to trusted voices like faith leaders, young youth-serving organizations, and the country's largest school system. If the schools, districts, and communities sign on publicly, no kid has to be the odd one out. No parent has to absorb the social cost of being the only family in the friend group to say no. And it's just like, I don't know, be a fucking better parent. Like, oh, but what if you as a parent get peer pressured? What if you feel like the odd one out for saying no to your kid? I don't know. Fucking grow the fuck up and be a parent anyway. Oh, hell yeah. Commodore has dropped the price of its retro phone by $100 ahead of pre-orders. Will now start at $399. I mean, that's still pretty expensive. Not sure how I feel about $399 for something like that, but like, there are options out there for sure. Who drafted this nonsense? It's literally a group called Project 2029. This is supposed to be their answer to the Republicans' Project 2025. This was supposed to be, that huge slate of crazy, out-of-pocket, far-right nonsense gobbledygook wish list that then all became real. This is supposed to be the answer to that. This is supposed to be what sets America back on the track to not be shit. This is what is supposed to fix America, push back against all the Trump administration's changes, and bring us back to a better place. And this ain't it. If this policy is their best foot forward, this ain't it. Right? Dismantle the attention economy. The attention economy is fundamentally built on surveillance. The platforms that demand kids' attention make money by tracking their activity on their own platforms and beyond, amassing troves of personal data to sell or share with advertisers or data brokers. These digital dossiers include every click, view, purchased, keystroke, etc. Every American kid who has ever used a social media platform or owned a smartphone has this kind of dossier. Not just every American kid, every person in America. The fact that this is framed specifically as a children's issue, I think, is just a way for these massive tech companies to try and throw some other distraction out there. Because every company has amassed your personal data if you have existed online for any conceivable amount of time. Why do you want socialism? Because I like democracy. And let's see here. The next president and Congress can dismantle the attention economy and strengthen data privacy through two major steps. First, implement strict limits on kids' data collection itself, not just on data use. This is what I mean. This is when I say, like, this is a way to trick the public into thinking that, like, that's it. That's the entire problem. When the reality is, the issue isn't that your kids specifically are being tracked. The issue is we are all being tracked. The issue is universal. It is not limited just to children. And that, in turn, is terrible. Make platforms pay for the harm they cause kids. Yes, but also, part of the problem here, for decades, technology companies have been insulated from the legal and economic consequences of their business practices, a result of Section 230, which provides broad immunity to online platforms for user-generated content. But the current digital marketplace was unimaginable when the law was written. Section 230 protections should be narrowed in four specific ways. First, to exclude paid ads. Investigations from Tech Transparency Project demonstrate how readily social media platforms push dangerous content on young people's feeds. In 2024, for example, TTP used Meta's services to produce and place ads targeting users ages 13 through 17, promoting pill parties, extreme weight loss, and teen vaping. Meta's ad approval system cleared every one of those ads in less than 5 minutes. Second, to exclude illegal content or activity, illegal drugs, sales, sex trafficking, once the platform has knowledge of it. Third, to exclude platforms that algorithmically promote content that constitutes stalking, harassment, or non-consensual intimate imagery. And fourth, to exclude any AI service that creates or co-creates content with a user, such as chatbots, image generators, or video generators. And, like, I'm not opposed to this, but what I find difficult to really put into words here is that I think this would just be another way to, specifically because they are talking about Section 230 here, why would you not punish the people placing the ads? Is this not just COSA shit? It is just COSA shit. Like, this is just re-gussied up COSA, but through, like, let's put it into Project 2029 so it seems more progressive, right? And that's kind of the worry that I've had, right, going forward here, which is that a lot of what Democrats are currently doing, you know, broadly, establishment Democrats, I should say, seems to be dressing up old neoliberal policy that favors corporations as if it's cool and hip progressive content by slapping the branding of Project 2029 on it. Like, all of this is bad. And I think that ultimately the solutions to a lot of these problems really just boils down to, we need data protection. We need universal data protection. And specifically, if we had universal data protection, you wouldn't be able to target ads directly to the 13 to 17-year-olds in order to, you know, advertise extreme weight loss measures and, like, facilitate, you know, eating disorders. if you had profound data protections, you wouldn't need to be talking about, Section 230 protects these platforms from any kind of financial liability, and so we need to take that away in some form. And we need to get rid of the attention economy. It's too addictive only for kids, though, not for adults. No, we need universal data protections, and we need the onus for a lot of these changes to social media feeds to be on the corporations, specifically. All of this to say, unsurprisingly, this is not, in fact, the most progressive thing you've ever seen, despite the fact that it's coming from Chad Mizell, former advisor to President Joe Biden, and Democratic Senator Cory Booker, who now serves as Project 2029's executive director. We're going to see many people running for president, and we want to set the standard in terms of the type of ambition we want to see when it comes to solving these problems. If this is the type of ambition you have, if this is the height of ambition you have going into 2029, holy fuck, I'm scared. I'm scared because this is nowhere near enough for us to unfuck the country. With the rulings SCOTUS has been hanging down, with the ways Donald Trump has weakened Congress, there are way too many things to be done for us to be bogged down with this neoliberal bullshit. Working class people, the entire time you're working on this particular policy, working class people are getting kicked out of their apartments. They're having to work multiple jobs. They're not being able to put food on the table. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. This is what they're up to. And, on the other hand, of course, you have this story coming out yesterday about Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez, which I gotta be honest, I am pretty sure she leaked, or her campaign leaked to the press because she's become so unpopular. She's trying to, establish some kind of progressive bona fides. It's ridiculous. But yeah, this story about her doing whippets and going to kink parties and latex events and doing LSD. I'm sorry. Frankly, she sucks. She sucks as a politician. But this does make her seem a little bit cooler. I still very much dislike her, but it does make her a little bit cooler. And to be fair here, I'm not saying she is cool.
It might be too late at this point, but the Kids Act vote is today, and it might pass and push age verification and other stuff all across the net.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Balls Deep 6969. Thank you for the $5 dono. I hope not. I hope not. Latex parties are for sex addicts. Grow the fuck up. Latex parties are great. Imagine being so fucking afraid of a fabric. God damn. Some people. Most fragile snowflakes on the planet. But yeah, she participated in nude runs and stuff, and I don't know. All of this to say, I think that establishment Dems and centrist Dems right now are particularly eager to look like they might be cool or hip or in touch with cutting edge solutions because they know they're losing. What is a latex party? It's a party where a bunch of people wear latex outfits. It's fine. It's cool. If it's orgy adjacent, that's immature shit. Okay. Well, one, if your response to hearing about a party where there's a dress code to dress in a certain fabric type is that orgy adjacent? You might be the immature one in that particular circumstance. Because here's the thing. Any party you go to can be orgy adjacent. All that it takes to be orgy adjacent is talking to people and saying, hey, do you want to have sex with me and these people over here? And then if they say yes, you go and you have your orgy. Everyone is technically orgy adjacent at any given time. All it takes is talking to other people and getting them to consent. Full disclosure, I'm a sex addict. Well, then, like, that is not for you. Like, don't say it's immature shit. It's just not for you, and that's fine too. Like, I'm not into orgies, but I'm also not going to shit on people who want to go to an orgy. And I like going to latex parties. I don't like going to orgies. But I will dress up and look hella fine. Anyway, I should wear latex on a stream sometime. I think that'd be fun. Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. Yes!
How do you do, fellow kids?
What?
Yes. Yes. Marie Glusenkamp Perez is the embodiment of Steve Buscemi saying, how do you do, fellow kids? Absolutely. Now, Democrats know that they are deeply, deeply, deeply unpopular. Okay? Deeply unpopular. I'll stop, but like hard drug use is immature too. Look, hard drugs aren't for me either. But also, you could also just say you don't like them. That is also a thing you can do. I don't know. You could say that they're damaging for people's health. You could just say no. I do think it makes her seem a little bit cooler that she, wasn't the worst person to hang out with on her campus, at least in a particular way.
I love infiltrating all the freaky denominations of Christian cults. I'm a sex addict.
Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. Appreciate you. I don't like them because they seem like naivete. Okay.
Looks like it already passed the House. If I am reading right.
Yes, the kids' safety package did pass the House. This chatter is fascinating. Give them that. I do give them that. Absolutely. Anyway, I'm going to stop being hung up on this. I just want to say I'm particularly sex positive, and the idea that like people having consenting sex is immature among adults, I think is weird. And also to be immediately hung up on the fact that people are going to a party wearing a specific outfit is automatically implying orgies, and that orgies are bad in and of themselves for any particular reason. Like, I don't know. I think that is a particularly immature view of sex, human relationships, and fabrics. But that's me. Anyway, speaking of immature, here's Van Jones. Reasonable Democrats are going to have to get off their couches, roll up their sleeves, and start organizing real voters on the ground. Which, can we just like pause and say, Van Jones, are the people who voted for Democratic Socialists not real voters? And if they're not real voters, what makes them not real voters? Like, Van Jones here making some kind of appeal to like this platonic ideal of a voter that he likes, and it's genuinely bizarre, right? Y'all got beat. Y'all had a real Democrat, a reasonable Democrat, a centrist Democrat who had an incumbent advantage, who got destroyed by progressive challengers. And they got destroyed by real voters. Everyone who voted there was real. We can no longer rely only on TV ads, digital spend, and endorsements. Just donating from afar and complaining about the DSA won't cut it. Hey, that's true. But you always should have had a ground game. And the reason Democrats abandoned having ground games is because, frankly, y'all have been coasting along for the longest time as being the only game in town, right? You just paid for ads. You had donors come in and you worked for the donors instead of working for voters. That's what happened here. And no amount of paying for ads, no amount of endorsements from celebrities is going to counteract that when you are going up against a progressive challenger who is doing the door knocking, who does have people who believe in them, and who is actually committed to working for the working class. That's the problem. That doesn't make that candidate fake. It doesn't make that candidate or their voters not real. In fact, I would argue it makes them more real. The DSA, Democratic Socialists of America, can beat moderates in a growing number of blue strongholds. Why? Because the DSA has patiently built an army of on-the-ground organizers who go to meetings, help each other, study together, and then work to turn out voters on election day. That army grows every day, election or no election. Their investment in real people grows and compounds with each election cycle. The DSA has a bigger army every time, win or lose. And I will say here, Dan Jones is correct. The reason I keep telling you guys that you need to go to these meetings, that you need to join DSA, that you need to join your local Dems, is because that is part of a larger whole that is gaining power every day. Every day, more and more people are turning up and are absolutely killing it, organizing. And that is not something that establishment Democrats have access to, because they can't create a snowball effect in favor of, their corporate donors. They can't do door-knocking campaigns while promising their voters to give more tax dollars to corporations. And that's what they have had to previously give in order to, get the money they needed to win. And that's a huge problem for establishment Dems. It's not a problem for working class Dems, for Dems that are going to fight for the progressive elements of the party. That's not a problem there. And I think some of the savvier Democrats are catching on to that now. All right? But at the end of any election, all moderate Dems have for their efforts is a bunch of ads that nobody will ever see again. That's not going to work anymore. Again, Van Jones is correct here. Because even when you get to Obama, one of the, greatest organizing presidential campaigns of all times, even Obama, with his entire organizing ground game, he burned that ladder. He burned it up. Burned it all down. No one could follow in his footsteps because he destroyed his own organizing machine. Because he recognized that it would be a threat to other establishment Democrats. So we got to build our own. And that's what we've been working on for years and years and years. If you are a Democrat who believes in opportunity, dignity, and democracy for all, but you don't hate rich people, cops, free enterprise, the West, Israel, and the United States of America, I'm talking to you. What an intriguing list of things. I gotta be honest, when we have the world's first trillionaire, or almost trillionaire, I guess, his net worth has gone down, and we've got record amounts of government money going to private corporations, and people aren't being able to put food on the table. People aren't being able to stay in their apartments. Gotta be honest with you, the message of, hey, we're the party of cops and rich people and capitalism and the world that you know and love and certainly isn't rat fucking you. Vote for us. We're the status quo. And it's just like, you cannot build a movement on that. You cannot build a movement on the status quo is good enough. You can't do it. Especially when the status quo has been completely broken, and we know now what is possible when a president with a clear vision gets into office and actually acts. We know now what is possible. That genie cannot be put back in the bottle. And that clarity of vision, that pro-working class policy, that will ultimately win the day. So I find all of this to be particularly interesting, right? Here's a short clip of Michael Hardaway I thought you guys might appreciate from MS Now.
Mamdani and the DSA.
Oh God, it's so quiet. Why?
These are just reheated Congressional Black Caucus policies over the last 55 years. I mean, housing affordability, healthcare. I mean, John Conyers, who's a founding member of the CBC, introduced a Medicare for All bill 23 years ago. And so these aren't new things. And
that's correct. Progressives are not talking about new things. They're talking about what working people have needed the entire damn time. Working class people have needed good housing policies that gets people housed. Working class people have needed healthcare. Working class people have needed electricity. Working class people have needed food. These are not new concepts. And the party that is actively going to work to deliver on that, the politicians that are actually going to work on delivering that, are going to absolutely steamroll the politicians who pledge to maybe do something. Maybe we'll get to it after we finish giving Amazon $100 trillion. Also, James De La Pena, I'm in Texas. How do you feel about Tallarico for Senate? Much better than the alternative, but what's your personal opinion about how he falls? Tallarico is not, I wouldn't describe him as particularly progressive. I would say he is, he's more of a centrist, though he is running a lefty aesthetic campaign. His actual policy positions, as I understand them, are fairly centrist, but where he shines is in his rhetoric, right? I would prefer to see him move farther left. And I think if he did, he would do better. Let's take a look at the other tears being shed by establishment Democrats right now. Yeah, I'll take a centrist in Texas if it means, we get a Democratic swap.
Democratic voters in New York chose 3 candidates backed by Zohran Mamdani, far left and Democratic Socialist candidates. What message do you take from that about where your party is?
Those were races in individual districts in a whole other state. I think you're seeing very different looking congressional races and certainly different Democratic candidates here in Pennsylvania. I think what is important are the people who are making a lot of noise, who are engaging in these performative politics, have to now figure out how to deliver results. It's one thing to speak in platitudes during a campaign. It's a whole other thing to actually deliver for people who are genuinely hurting.
Which is a wild thing for Josh Shapiro to say about specifically candidates coming out of Zohran Mamdani's New York, where Zohran Mamdani has delivered on his campaign promises. The particular rhetoric that he's talking about isn't from the campaign. It's from Twitter posts from 10 years ago,
Genuinely need to see cost of living go down, meaning their ability to make ends meet, go up, fixing a broken healthcare system, reining in excesses, being able to, give people the promise of liberty that we've talked about. And I think we as a party need to find our way toward candidates who actually can deliver for people and make their lives better. I think what is interesting to me here is we need to prioritize people who can deliver and make people's lives better. But he's very cagey exactly on what that means. Oh, so you're going to raise the minimum wage? No, don't be ridiculous. Oh, so you're going to make sure people are housed? Only if that means giving hundreds of billions of dollars to the construction industry and the private corporations to develop land. So you're going to make sure it's easier for people to put food on the table by lowering food prices? No. Unless you mean giving billions of taxpayer dollars to farmers to subsidize them, and hopefully that trickles down to consumers. And yeah, Ralphus Simpsonicus, thank you for the $2 super chat. These FDR-style policies are popular everywhere. Exactly. This isn't new information. We've known the entire time about what plays well. Has to go through that will be very healthy and something we've not really done since the 1992 election cycle is to have a battle over what we believe in, to have a battle over the ideas that we are going to hold on to and campaign on and then deliver on as a way to make people's lives better.
what I find so fascinating about this brief exchange is how honest it is, right? In this one moment, he lays it out there. We're going to have a battle. He doesn't sugarcoat it. He's saying it calmly, but what he is doing is, we are going to fight progressives. We are going to fight not the Trump administration, not the corporations who are oppressing people. We are going to fight up and coming progressive leftists who want to make your wages higher, your working conditions better, and ensure everyone is housed and fed and able to live a life of dignity. And the issue here is then he goes on to say, okay, we're gonna have a battle to see whose ideas can actually come out and deliver. And it's like, what ideas are you working on delivering here? What ideas? Because when you start breaking it down, it's kind of like, well, we want to have public-private partnerships where we use your public taxpayer dollars and give them to private corporations who will then still take advantage of you, their customers, in order to make even more of a profit. Oh, well, when I talk about the policies that I want to pass, I'm talking about, things that will help companies. And then the companies obviously will pay you guys more, which is not how that has ever worked. This entire circumstance here is really interesting because if he actually named the policies that he opposes, like, for example, Medicare for All, they're massively, massively popular. Massively popular. Everyone, if he brought up the policies that leftists, working class politicians are trying to pass, they would sound like you could just play it as an ad for any potential opponents coming up against him in the future. The fact that he disapproves of these, the fact that he wants to have a throwdown about this, well, it goes back to what Van Jones was saying. There is no ground game for this. There is no ground game for knocking on doors for Project 2029. There is no base of support here. And all of the people who would normally be part of the base of support when it comes down to this idea of what Josh Shapiro thinks the Democratic Party should stand for, they're all already marching in No Kings rallies. They're all already getting radicalized, fighting ICE and calling for it to be abolished. And people like Josh Shapiro can't even find the courage in their gut to say that ICE should be abolished. These people are too cowardly to even stand up for their own constituents. They really do hate us more than they hate the right wing. Exactly. Because the right wing isn't a threat to their position inside the Democratic Party. But progressives are. But leftists are. But people who want better things for the working class are. Democrats are lost right now. ICE should not be abolished. You try coming to Minneapolis and saying that, bud. You try it. You see how much public support there is here in Minnesota for the masked thugs that roamed the streets beating people, spraying people, arresting people, killing people.
We knew this fight was coming,
masks.
But isn't so wonderfully ironic that their resistance is giving us so much more ammunition?
It's genuinely hilarious, PC Schwarz. Because
Is the plan?
Oh God, I didn't want Mehdi Hassan jump scare. It's genuinely hilarious, right?
They're going to look at New York City and go, oh, the Democratic Party is so far left. I actually saw one guy who's fairly respected have the nerve to say, oh, well, this just proves that if you're in the Democratic Party, you have to be crazy to win. I'm thinking, wait, this from Trump's MAGA Republican Party? But, they're going to focus on New York City.
Fuck them, stay out of the streets till ICE cleans up Biden's mess. How about fuck you? How about you stay the fuck out of my city, you stay the fuck out of my state, and you let us mind our own business? That's all we've ever wanted. Don't you fucking come into my house and say, oh, we all need to hole up inside of our houses like we're under fucking siege while people kill innocent people in the streets while they're wearing masks, while they're driving around like crazy. I saw someone shoot a smoke grenade out in the middle of an intersection while traffic was flying. I have no interest in your slum, then stop fucking talking shit. If you have no interest in ICE operating where I live, then stay the fuck out. Stay the fuck out. You can go lick your boots someplace else, bud. You can lick it real good and shove it right up your ass because people in this country are fed up with masked thugs killing people on the streets, spiriting away people in the night, acting like fucking mafia thugs. We're sick of it. We're tired of it. And honestly, anyone who supports it sucks ass. And honestly, when all this is over, like when Donald Trump is long gone, no longer in office, you're going to be embarrassed. You're going to be embarrassed because your kids, your grandkids, anyone who is spawned out of you is going to hate the very blood that courses through their veins because it's tainted by your hatred. Because it's tainted by your cowardice. Because it's tainted by your fashy little fingers. When they look in the mirror, they're going to be cursed by the knowledge that they have to look a little bit like you until the day they die. And that's going to be devastating for them. Right? Fuck fascists and fuck you. It is interesting though. All these people who come into my chat constantly to talk shit, right? All of them. They are all going to get silent as the grave the second Donald Trump is out of office. The second Donald Trump is no longer a meaningful political figure in this country, they're going to be silent. His memory is going to be fucking struck from the record. They're all going to pretend Trump who? Trump who? Wait, who's that one guy? Who's that one guy who's really pro MAGA? I don't know. It's gonna be rendered into Charlie Kirk slop. You know? It's gonna be rendered into the fucking just ether. And no one will remember who he was, other than as a punchline and as a fucking terror. He will go down in infamy. And when it is all said and done, these people will be embarrassed of what they have done. There is going to come a time where these people realize that they cannot, in polite society, talk about being MAGA anymore. And for a lot of conservatives, that has already happened. They've already lost their families. They've already lost their friends. They're only going to become more keenly aware of what they have done as time goes by. Like, I feel like from now on, who'd you vote for in 2024 will be a baseline dating question. I mean, honestly, were you ever MAGA? Have you ever been pro-Trump? Will be something that will be like a stain on people. And like, I don't know. I have dignity. I can live with my life choices. I can stand proudly for who I am. Not a single one of these chuckle fucks can.
Off topic, but I adore that top. Stop hogging all the fashion sense, woman.
No. But thank you. I like it too. Thank you for the 5 pounds. All right. Speaking of embarrassments, here's Joe Scarborough.
And they're going to ignore the admiral winning in South Carolina, a woman who's committed her entire life to protecting and defending the United States of America. They're also going to ignore a woman just up the road that's going to be running against Mike Lawler, who was a Bronze Star was awarded the Bronze Star 3 times. She was Special Ops, one of the first women to ever lead Special Ops units. She toured Afghanistan and Iraq, had 6 tours there.
And best of all, she's a dead-on centrist. And we love that here at the Morning Joe.
Bona fide war hero. And This is, I gotta say, this is what the Democrats are proving themselves really to be really pragmatic.
I need someone more right-wing than Trump to make these snowflakes really cry. The only snowflakes that cry are conservatives. Let's be super real. Like, genuinely, like, you wouldn't last for 5 minutes doing a show like mine. You'd be reduced to a quivering mess. And not in a sexy way.
If you look at what they did last night, New York City, they go far, far left. That'll work for New York City. In places like Lawler's district, which is a swing district, South Carolina, one swing district, finding these military heroes, much like they did with the New Jersey race, Mikey Sherrill, and in Virginia, Spamberger, while they were electing a socialist in New York City, Mamdani. It worked then. We'll see if it works this fall.
Yeah, these are congressional races. These are not statewide races. So it's not terribly surprising that someone to the far left won the Upper West Side or won areas of Brooklyn. It is impressive that Mayor Mamdani, in his short term in office, was able to sort of bless these candidates, and some of them winning overwhelmingly and unseating incumbents. Dan Goldman losing by 30 points in his district, the incumbent, and Congressman Espaillat, who is a major figure.
Also, I'm seeing somebody in Vertical Chat complaining about DSA not, like, policing other chapters. Each chapter is its own business. If you don't like the way things are done in your local DSA chapter, then you gotta fucking change it. Simple as. You don't like how things are done in the Democratic Party, you gotta get people to join and change it. It's decentralized. You know? Like, it's why I tell people to get involved on the local level with their local Democrats. It's why I tell people to get involved on the local level with their DSA. If you're not happy with how it is run, then join it and change it. It's literally what you make it, and if you're not happy about it, there's no daddy coming to save you. You have to be the change agent. So, like, I don't know what good you think it is going to do here to, like, cry in my chat about it. Go fix it. Don't come running to us when one of your lights goes out in your house. Go get a ladder, go buy a light bulb, and change your own fucking light bulb.
Congressional Hispanic caucus, the leader of that caucus as well.
Or go seduce a daddy and get them to come live with you and or be willing to do handiwork jobs around your house. That is another option, but still, you are the agent of change there.
Was unseated in a closer race there. So, yes, as the New York Times says this morning, Mamdani showed he can be a kingmaker, but to make this a national story and not look at what you just discussed, which is the race up in Westchester County, where Mike Lawler is going to have a tough fight because a lot of the support he's shown for Donald Trump, and in South Carolina and other places where it turns out, Jonathan Lemire, in specific congressional districts, Democrats pick candidates that they think can win. In this case, in New York City, some of those were socialists.
Yeah, I mean, Democrats feel good in recent cycles since the 24 disaster.
I love that these guys are just responding to Morning Joe, just being like, well, people in these districts think that they can win, I guess.
About finding the right candidates for the right races. I was talking to some Democrats yesterday who reminded us, as we look towards this November, the success that Democrats had running moderates for the governor's races in New Jersey and Virginia. They won both. But yet, and we're seeing the same there in South Carolina. They feel very bullish about a lot of races coming up this fall. But yes, it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. And in New York City, certainly that's the story here, is Zohran Mamdani, in his early days in office, having significant coattails, being a kingmaker and picking off, choosing.
The issue here that I take with this is that Zohran Mamdani, like, people aren't coasting off of his coattails, because that implies, like, he won and then other people are trading off of his victory. It's not that. Zohran Mamdani has built the infrastructure to launch other progressives to challenge Democrats, right? And establishment Democrats. And that is a much more impressive accomplishment, right?
to use his political capital to pick off some incumbents to put in some of his sort of more of like-minded fellow travelers, more to the left than others. I mean, Dan Goldman has a record that a lot of Democrats pretty happy with the exception of some of the support for Israel in the months after the war. And also, there's also here in New York, there's sort of the Latino political machine also showing its age. I think that's part of it as well. That's a subplot to what happened here. But no doubt, what worked in New York City, Democrats aren't trying to replicate it other places. It's not one size fits all.
What's really interesting here is the idea that, like, advocating for higher wages, holding landlords accountable, making sure people have places to live, all of that, what works in New York might not work other places. I'm pretty sure everyone needs those things. This is the problem, right? Like, a lot of centrist and establishment Dems have this idea that New York is some kind of super special place. Oh, well, it can work in New York. It can't work anywhere else. I think the reverse is true. If it works in New York, a bastion of what it means to be a Democrat in America, then that message can win anywhere. It's one of the most diverse places on earth. There are hundreds of languages spoken there. And you're telling me that it can't translate to, like, rural areas of the country? I'm sorry. Hey, if you live in a rural area of the country, do you not need laws that hold landlords accountable to be enforced? Do you not need, like, better wages? Do you not need things to be priced in such a way that you can buy them, like food, for example, or medicine? These are all programs and ideas that are popular everywhere. It's not unique to New York to want basic standards when it comes to living conditions. It is not unique to New York to want basic ability to live off of what you make for a living. This isn't difficult. This isn't difficult at all. God damn.
If you can make it there, you make it anywhere. It's up to you. New York, New York.
It's a heck of a town. Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. And I appreciate the musical reference.
Yeah, a lot of things going on here. And Jonathan, we're going to have you put on your daily news hat here. I personally thought when Mamdani came out and endorsed all these people, I thought too soon. Because even if you win in those cases, and he did, and he should be saluted, it's extraordinary political machine there. And he's going to build a lot of power as a kingmaker in New York City. A lot of scar tissue when you're mayor of New York City with a lot of people, even if you win those races. But he's proven himself to be a brilliant political operator. I'm sure he'll sort through that. I just hearing a lot of people talking about the anti-Semitism in New York City, and last night proved the anti-Semitism in New York City, and this is Mamdani's fault, this is so-and-so's fault, this is this left. No, it's not. It's really not. If you want to blame anybody for what happened last night, my opinion, if you want to blame anybody, Jonathan, I think you have to blame Benjamin Netanyahu. 4 years of...
Yes. The real reason Zohran Mamdani won. Benjamin Netanyahu. Of course.
Of course!
Like, I can't, man. The political analysis on these shows is so dog shit. No, Zohran Mamdani doesn't owe his success to Benjamin Netanyahu. He owes his success to the failures of the Democratic Party, to the failures of the Democratic Party establishment, to the billionaires who bought political favor to such an extent that working class people rallied almost in their entirety behind Zohran Mamdani. That's who he owes his success to. And in a similar fashion, the people who rallied for Zohran rallied for these congressional candidates. Simple as. It doesn't have to be difficult. but these people want it to be difficult because they desperately want to dodge responsibility when it comes to Democrats and establishment Democrat inaction in particular.
Maximalist aims, 4 years of ahistoric goals in the Middle East that anybody from Dr. Brzezinski to even me could have told anybody over the past 20 years. It's not going to work. And I've said it all along. There's always blowback in the Middle East. The idea that you're going to be able to brutalize children and women in Gaza with bombing that looks indiscriminate on TV day in and day out for years, that you're going to be able to level half of Lebanon, that you're going to be able to continue to allow thugs to run wild in the West Bank and brutalizing Palestinians, brutalizing Christians in Bethlehem, brutalizing Christians across that area, along with Palestinian Muslims, especially Palestinian Muslims, blowing up Catholic churches in Gaza. Of course, I'm saying things that would relate to some of these people who were so shocked that Israel is in such low standing in America right now. Forgive me for a quick digression, but I was always instinctively pro-Israeli and anti-Palestinian growing up. You know why? Because when I...
What a wild thing to say.
Casual reminder that Martina Giovanni, Morning Joe, went to Mar-a-Lago to grovel when Trump won for the second time.
That's true. I remember that. I forgot. Oh, that makes all of this so much funnier. Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs and for that brilliant reminder. I forgot entirely that he went to kiss the ring. But I'm sorry, I want to play this back.
Israeli aggression, but I was always instinctively pro-Israeli and anti-Palestinian growing up. You know why? Because when I was a young...
I was just instinctively anti-Palestinian is such a wild thing to say. Like a wildly hateful thing. I was just instinctively... just imagine inserting any other group. I was just instinctively anti-Irish. I was instinctively anti-Albanian. What the fuck? This is truly disgusting.
Young child, one of my first memories was the 72 Munich Olympics. When Palestinian terrorists killed Israelis, and it was shocking. And we saw time and time again terror attacks throughout the 70s. That shaped an entire generation's views on that conflict. Well, what shaped...
I'm okay, but the fact that you grew up instinctively biased against an entire group of people because you saw some of them commit a crime once is genuinely heinous. This is like saying, well, I saw a video on Twitter of a black guy doing a crime, so I became instinctively anti-black. What are you talking about? That's stupid. That's stupid and racist. But he's saying it like it totally makes sense. Instead of just that should have been a wake-up call for you, man.
The views now. Images out of Gaza. Images out of the West Bank. Images out of Lebanon. A famine out of Gaza. And an American president who tells Netanyahu, go. You're unrestrained until his war in Iran goes horribly wrong. So... you can blame all of this on Benjamin Netanyahu, and yes, if you go...
No, you can't, actually. This is the thing, right? This is the thing so many people like Morning Joe talk about, which is, it's all Benjamin Netanyahu's fault. It's all Benjamin Netanyahu's fault. It's all Benjamin Netanyahu's fault. If we just get rid of Benjamin Netanyahu, everything will be all right. Itamar Ben-Gvir is one of the highest-ranking members of the Israeli government. And he's worse. He's specifically worse. I covered an interview excerpt from him the other day, right? Where he talked about how Lebanon should be Israel's playground. They should be able to do whatever they want in Lebanon. And this entire situation and idea that like, oh, well, if we just get rid of Benjamin Netanyahu, everything will go back to being normal. It'll be fine again. Go back to sleep, go back to sleep, go back to sleep. No, because the rut goes deeper than that. The rut goes a lot deeper than that. All right. I want to read to you guys an excerpt here. This is from State of LGBTQ Phobia in Israel 2024 report. Right? This was put together by a number of different organizations in partnership with Canada in particular. But here is an excerpt. At the same time, we witnessed a disturbing escalation in the nature of LGBTQ phobic attacks. First, red lines were crossed this year in terms of cruelty and brutality of the attacks on community members. Physical assaults involving cold weapons, knives, pepper spray, stones, clubs, etc. Distinct attempted murders and severe threats motivated by LGBTQ phobia. Whether the incidents occurred spontaneously, like random street encounters, or with calculated pre-planning, like victim identification via dating apps, impersonation, ambushing, and violent attacks, these illustrate the increase in the gravity of cases reported to the reporting center this year. This is in Israel, by the way. Additionally, there has been another element of sophistication of LGBTQ phobia, an escalation in hate speech and incitement against the LGBTQ community stemming from Israeli media outlets, public officials, anti-LGBTQ organizations, formal institutions, and unrestrained commentary in social media and online articles. Fueling the hatred by these influential voices at the top filters downward into society, fostering radicalized attitudes toward the LGBTQ community and legitimizing attacking the community even among those who already held negative positions or influenced by disinformation and fabricated facts. Now, this extends throughout the IDF, for example. Other arenas of struggle, this is a different part here, include the municipal area and the security forces. In local authorities, these organizations are fighting to eliminate any recognition of LGBTQ identities, relationships, and families, mainly by opposing pride events, LGBTQ community services and activities, or any visible LGBTQ representation in official municipal publications and activities. Within the IDF, they oppose all LGBTQ visibility and efforts to promote tolerance towards LGBTQ individuals among soldiers. There's also notable resistance to any expression or acknowledgement, no matter how symbolic, of LGBTQ identity within government ministries. In August of this year, Knesset member and former deputy minister in the Prime Minister governmental office, Avi Maoz, accused the LGBTQ organizations of siding with Hamas during the October 7th massacre. The organization Chotam, which was present at parliamentary committees and is also part of the so-called Family Organizations Forum, compared the rainbow flag representing the LGBTQ community to the flags of Hamas supporters. These statements built on Knesset member Yitzhak Pindris' statement made in 2023, where he claimed LGBTQ people were more dangerous than Hamas or Hezbollah. Together, such rhetoric contributes to a climate of hate that begins at the top, trickles down into society, and fuels negative attitudes towards LGBTQ community in the streets, businesses, workplaces, and government offices. Again, this is the issue, right? Which is that the entire government, the Knesset and upward, has been taken over by far-right extremists. And the question is, what flavor of far-right extremists should be in power? That's the main question when it comes to elections in Israel these days. And it is not simply a question of, if we get rid of Netanyahu, everything will be set to right. It won't. It's a problem that goes far deeper in Israel than just one guy. Why are most mass shooters from the community? They're not. Most mass shooters are white men who are straight. And yet, I do want to note here, you don't see gay people talking about how all straight white men need to be imprisoned until we figure out what's going on. Weird that, isn't it? So strange. Almost like that would be a deeply irrational response to seeing somebody commit an attack.
Back to the horrors of October 7th, blame the funding for that on Benjamin Netanyahu as well, because he forced the Qataris to continue funding Hamas weeks before the October 7th attack. So again, everybody's going to want to blame somebody else for this. The guy on the left is the reason why Israel's standing, not only in New York City, but across America, is lower than it has been since 1948. And you're starting to see that in elections, not only on the far left, but on the far right.
Yeah, what you just said there about Netanyahu being the central figure is precisely what I was texting with some New York Democratic operatives last night.
Yeah, of course. This is the ultimate cope. This is the ultimate cope. And I gotta be honest, if you do believe any of these men have any idea what they're talking about, then the only conclusion you can come to is that they're liars, right? And that they're the worst kind of liars on the planet, that they are lying specifically to support the continuance of this kind of oppression and war crime and genocide, right? Like, if you believe they know what they're talking about, then they would know enough about Israel to know that it is not just a Netanyahu problem. Calling them ignorant and stupid, that is actually the kindest interpretation of what is happening here.
So the people on the right like to blame Mamdani. They like to say there's a culture of anti-Semitism here, and people can have their own opinions. That's not what this was about. Brad Lander, of course, Jewish himself. This is about the support for Israel and the conduct of that war. Dan Goldman, this shows you how toxic it is. Dan Goldman, as of late 2024, was also running away from it. So it's denounced it and said this has gone too far, tried to move away from his position that had initially been supportive. But that shows you just how toxic Bibi and Netanyahu and his conduct of the war has been, where he couldn't overcome that. And Lander, who had been far more critical, was able to win. So that is a big piece of the story here in New York. And then the Mamdani coattails is the other element here. There's no question that the Netanyahu stuff, Joe and Mika, loomed large in that race, perhaps more than any other factor. And we'll see how that plays out going forward, because as a final thought, I had conversations last night with some Democrats about other races coming up this fall and in 2028. And there's no doubt that the Netanyahu stuff looms large. As long as he's in power. Once he's out, that could change things. But the conduct of that war...
Yeah, once he's out, that could change things. It's not. Because people don't like the genocide. The genocide is the thing that people don't like. Benjamin Netanyahu has become like a shorthand for the genocide, but the genocide will continue even if someone new gets into power, right? That's a huge problem. Establishment Democrats are cowardly. It's like they're in a horror movie, and progressives are like Jason. And they're just like throwing stuff in front of the door, and Jason just like bursts through like the Kool-Aid Man. They're acting like it's a fucking horror show. When in this version, Jason just wants to give them healthcare and the emotional support they need to survive. But like, truly, I do want to hammer home at every available opportunity. Centrist Democrats keep time and time again making fools of themselves and like really just shitting themselves on television. Here's another CNN bit, this time with Morris Katz, who was a top advisor to Zohran Mamdani and one of his campaign heads. Let's take a quick look here.
What's next? How do you grow the ideals, particularly behind the democratic socialism, beyond New York City and other deep blue cities? I mean, we've seen it here in D.C. and in Seattle, but how do you get beyond that?
I mean, to me, this is less about any specific label and more about a fundamental question of who is our government going to work for and does it work? And I think right now the answer is our government does not work, and our government works for the wealthy and the well-connected, for lobbyists, for those with the money to buy power, and it doesn't work for anyone else. And we need to change that. And New York City DSA had an incredible night last night, slates of candidates across the city winning. There are a lot of other places where you're seeing similar things, but I think it's not restricted to any one label. And we talk a lot about the party being a big tent party, and we should be. I think the question is, what is that tent going to be, and can it be united around the affordability crisis and taking on corruption?
Well, you said that it shouldn't be one label, but some of the wins, most of the wins that you and the mayor had in New York were people who did label themselves as democratic socialists, and it's because that aligns with their beliefs. And of course, Democrats, really, they make up the vast majority of New York. I don't need to tell you that. Kamala Harris got like 70% of the vote in these places. Nationally, I just wanted to look at some of these figures. 2/3 of independents oppose moving towards socialism. Is there a swing district, Morris, where you think a democratic socialist can win?
I think that we spend a lot more time talking about labels than the average swing voter thinks about them. I think we've seen the mayor's Democratic Socialist, and he's a proud Democratic Socialist, but you see people interact with policies, campaigns, and ideas not predicated on the label they're applying to themselves, but how are they going to make their lives better?
This is the thing, right? Like, I find his perspective so refreshing, which is this idea that actually people don't really care what you call it. People care about being able to take their child to the hospital and not go bankrupt. People don't care if it's called socialism, if it means they have better wages and their quality of life increases. Like, if I'm sorry, but if you're not politically brain poisoned, like all of you who are here right now watching, you do not really have a understanding of what the labels mean, even necessarily. Like, I can't even begin to tell you guys how many like conservatives or Republicans or even some Democrats who come into this chat not knowing what socialism is at all, right? Like they could not define it. They're like, USSR ? And that's it. Or like maybe Mao Zedong ? And like, because they don't know, they just never were taught what it is outside of those two examples. When I talk about socialism in the context of, hey, I believe in socialism because I like democracy and I like worker rights and I like worker well-being being prioritized over the profits of a corporation going to, make a billionaire more billions. I think that resonates with more people, and they're like, well, I don't really care what you call it. That sounds pretty good. And in a similar vein, I think that what Katz is doing here is taking that concept and really operationalizing it as a campaign ethos, which is, doesn't matter what you call it, as long as you are working for working people. And I think that is ultimately an incredibly successful strategy here in America, because a lot of the polling, like the poll that she just showed on screen, is predicated on people responding just to the word socialism, complete with their flawed understanding of what that might entail. And when you are actually running a campaign and actually talking about what people need, it doesn't really matter what word you attach to it, because one, Republicans are going to call you a socialist anyway. They're going to attack you for being a socialist, whether or not you are the most neoliberal Democrat to ever run, or you are an actual socialist. So labels don't really matter insofar as that goes. And if you are doing a good job having a people-powered campaign, you can get out enough words sufficiently to let people know what your campaign is beyond one buzzword. And if you can't do that, then you just haven't run a strong enough campaign.
And I think a politics that, invests in domestic priorities in schools and in hospitals rather than in wars abroad, a politics that refuses to accept money, whether it be from corporations or lobbyists, people who are the architects of the crises we're facing right now. That is what people are looking for. That's what people are hungry for. And I think, you can look at some of the people who've overperformed the most over the last few years, even when coming short, people like John Tester and Sherrod Brown. Those are more populist candidates than many of the Democrats we see, even in far safer seats. And I think we can have a big tent populist party where candidates and voters have the right to call it by whatever name they seek.
Yeah.
But what people are looking for is a different kind of politics.
Right, but Sherrod Brown and John Tester lost.
But they did overperform by a margin with which, if we applied that across the country, we'd have majorities in both chambers, and certainly the White House, which we don't right now.
Look at that. Like, it's clearly a hostile interview, but this guy knows his shit. And he's just like, well, yeah, they did lose, but also if that overperformance margin existed across America, we'd be running the country right now. Yeah, it's truly just some fucking rhetorical judo. It was great. Also, for the record, Vertical Chat, socialism and communism, usually, while they can mean the same thing, usually considered two distinct things. Socialism usually referring to a society where workers democratically control their means of production. So, where you work, you would have an equal say in how it is run to everyone else who works there as well, and it would be run democratically along a collectively agreed upon set of ideas, right? Versus communism, which is a stateless, classless, moneyless society. Socialism and communism, I think, go somewhat hand in hand insofar as socialism is a step towards communism, but I would consider them two different things. Many people would, and some people might use the terms interchangeably, which adds to the confusion. So, understandable. Lol, how dumb are you? I mean, probably smarter than you, maybe.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. I do want to ask about Brad Lander, who you work for.
Yeah, I mean, Karl Marx used the terms interchangeably, and also you then have different camps after the kind of release of Capital. You get this idea of evolutionary socialism versus revolutionary socialism and disagreements of that nature. And that's, I think, where you get two different ideas of what socialism versus communism are or is. But I prefer going back to that original definition from Marx.
He beat the incumbent Democratic Congressman Dan Goldman last night. Lander denounced an incident at Poetica Coffee where his opponent, Dan Goldman, who is Jewish, was told he's not welcome there because of his support for Israel. I want to play what Mayor Mamdani said when he was asked about that incident.
Wait a minute. Socialism is not when the government does things. Wait a minute. Then explain this clip on my soundboard.
Socialism is when the government does stuff.
I can explain it. It's from a Richard Wolff lecture. He was making a joke about where a lot of people's understandings of socialism is. People should probably go watch his entire lecture because it's very good.
I have many a political disagreement with Congressman Goldman when it comes to his votes and his views on Israel. I think that what we saw online goes beyond.
Morris, that wasn't exactly a full-throated condemnation on an incident against a Jewish congressman.
I mean, I think he was saying that it went beyond what he believes to be fair criticism. And so in the context of a press conference or something, it's easy to, pull a clip or mince the words. But I think what he was saying is that, we can have disagreements, strong disagreements, as he does with Congressman Goldman's policies, and also believe that there's not room for incidents like what we saw take place there.
There's a lot of debate. I don't need to.
Incredible. This guy is so good, he should run for office. Genuinely, he's just out here being well, yeah, this is Dana Bash. Yeah, I mean, it's a short clip from a press conference, and he says it's not acceptable, so I think that basically covers all of it. Katz is killing it.
About U.S. aid for Israel, variations on what it should or shouldn't look like. But I want to ask you about something more fundamental. Do you think any Democrat who supports Israel should be primaried and defeated?
Do I believe that any Democrat? No, I don't believe that. I believe that any Democrat who is, I think that the Democrats who are most closely aligning with AIPAC pose an electoral risk to the party.
But why? Why AIPAC and not other? Why AIPAC and not other dark money organizations of various
I feel this the same
subjects and others.
So you asked the question about Israel. I think the same thing can be true about many sectors, whether it be private equity or crypto. I think many of those apply the same. And I think when people,
I do wonder if you called the platform Analingus Enthusiasts and had the same policies if people would still not question the name.
Whoopsie. You got me there. You got me there.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Sake, thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs.
Talk about this issue. There are a number of voters for whom this is a defining and important issue. But I think the shift that we're seeing amongst the Democratic primary electorate,
Yeah, like, I think his answer was great. Like, it seemed like a pretty silly question, as if, like, she was trying to frame it as if, oh, you oppose AIPAC money because it's, like, Jewish money or something, like some kind of smear like that. But he's just like, no, we oppose it because it is outside spending on our elections. Like, we want our politicians to represent the people who live in these areas, not other countries who paid for that support.
General election electorates at large is less driven by a unilateral focus on Israel and more focused on them picking up on the dishonesty of the politics that comes with it. And I think it's a belief that a politics that sells anyone out will eventually sell everyone out. And when you see politicians telling people to not believe what they see with their own eyes, when you see politicians saying, we don't have enough money to not cut Medicaid, but we have enough money to write another blank check to Netanyahu, that undercuts a faith in government. It undercuts a faith in the ability to take on special interests. And I think that's where you're seeing this issue grow out of. And I think a lot of the politicians who then try to conflate the issue of criticisms of AIPAC or criticisms of Israel with anti-Semitism do a disservice to the ability to stand up to anti-Semitism, which is very real, which is on the rise, and undercut the ability to engage in that.
I just think that was a brilliant interview. Now, of course, this is where the battle lines get drawn, right? Like, he did so good, but also we're seeing kind of the shifting, and we're seeing which politicians land where. And I was gratified to see this the other day from Ro Khanna.
I want to speak to fellow progressives today. Yesterday was the beginning of a new, bold, strong Democratic Party. Democrats are winning, not just in New York, we're winning across this country, in New Jersey, in Michigan, in Maine. The reality is that our platform of a New Deal for our time is resonating. It's a platform that says no to foreign wars, no to genocide. But it's also a platform that says yes. Yes to Medicare for all. Yes to child care for all. Yes to unions for all. And yes to a tax on billionaires and trillionaires. It turns out that when you stand up for the working class, over the Epstein class, over the billionaire class, the American people respond in huge numbers. But we shouldn't be naive. The oligarchs are going to come after us. Yesterday, Elon Musk spent the morning saying that I should be put in jail or he was going to sue me. Why? Because I stood up to him. We have a simple message for these oligarchs. Channeling FDR, we should say to them, bring it on.
Like, I gotta say, I have a lot of doubts about Ro Khanna in particular, but that being said, he has very clearly picked the correct side in this conflict. But when I do want to be clear here, it is a conflict. This is a conflict between, the centrist, conservative Democrats and the up-and-coming Democrats who are willing to fight for the working class people of this country. And which side you wind up on is going to matter a whole lot, especially as we build the roster for what needs to be a revolutionary Congress in 2028. What needs to happen is more and more progressives getting elected on the national stage so that when we hit 2028, there is a critical mass of Democrats that are committed to doing something. Because there is a crisis in the country and we need to address it. all that being said, I have one last interview to go over here, and I think it makes very clear what the dynamic is from here on out, right? I think it's official. We have entered the sprint toward 2028. And let's take a look at this ABC interview with Zohran Mamdani. He went on ABC yesterday, and this interview was absolutely incredible. I was watching it as I was working out this morning, actually, and I think it answers a lot of the questions many of us have been asking about where this goes from here.
You've had a heck of a week. I mean, the election, the candidates you endorsed won down the line, and you knocked off 2 Democratic incumbent members of Congress. Is this like a unique moment in New York, or is this the beginning of a national movement?
I think we are seeing a hunger that is not just felt by New Yorkers, but frankly by Americans from coast to coast for a new kind of politics, one that puts working people at the heart of it. And I think for far too long, what we as a party have been able to say to New Yorkers who are struggling is simply to explain why they're struggling, not actually offer them a vision for how to make life better. And these candidates, Brad, Daria Lisa, Claire, they ran campaigns that spoke to working people and that said life in the nation's most expensive city need not be this way any longer. And I can't wait to have them as partners in DC in that work.
So do you see yourself endorsing candidates outside of New York, or?
For now, my focus is on this incredible slate of 3 congressional candidates, as well as you said, the 5 candidates I endorsed who ran and won, who are all going to be heading to Albany in the state legislature. But I do think, as you said, it's not just New York City where working people are asking themselves, why can't I afford my rent? Why can't I afford my groceries? Why can't I find enough money in my pocket for childcare, no matter how hard I work? And I'm so excited that these incredible soon-to-be Congress members will be helping to lead the fight across the country on making sure that working people are right there where they should be, which is the heart of the conversation.
Like, this is the thing, right? This is the thing. He gets asked, what about politicians beyond your city? And he does not say no. And instead he points that there are national level problems, because it is very clear here that going forward, he wants to continue to grow not just his own prominence, but the prominence of other politicians, which is rare in politics. It is rare in politics to see someone who is rising up and like lowering a helping hand to raise other people up. And his messaging is so good here, but reading between the lines, this is, I would say, a declaration of war to answer the establishment Democrats' declaration of war. You know, he is well aware that he has become this lightning rod where establishment Democrats are accusing him of breaking the Democratic Party. And instead of slinking back and like tail between his legs, going into hiding, instead he is saying, we're coming for you. You better get with the program or you get gone.
Reaction from Democrats has been something. You've had some prominent Democrats dismissive of what happened here. I mean, you had Senator Blumenthal say the effort to nationalize New York is going to fail. What happened in New York will be really irrelevant by the time of the elections in November. Hakeem Jeffries basically said the same thing, saying that this is not indicative of what needs to happen in November. What do you make of that?
You know, I think that when you ask Americans what they're feeling in this moment, amidst reports of an economy that's strengthening, of a stock market that's booming, you will hear an exhaustion at having to try and make ends meet every single day, every single week, every single month, and that it's getting harder and harder. And so a message of fighting for working people, we don't have to nationalize that message. That is a national message. It's a national crisis. And for far too long, all we've had to say as a party is opposition to the current administration. What do we have to say beyond that? And what these candidates offer is a vision that extends beyond the midterms, it extends beyond 2028. It speaks to what makes so many of us proud to be Democrats. It speaks to a vision that goes back to a New Deal understanding of what working people deserve. And I'll tell you that for too long, that kind of politics, you can only find it in history books, and we need to bring it back to the present day.
what's really great about Zohran is you see him drawing on his past speeches, and for people who have seen him speak, it is a building. He's building to something, and he is referencing touchstones that many Americans, not all Americans, but many Americans are familiar with, like the New Deal and FDR. And he is able to connect these ideas in a simple and pinpoint accurate way. And I think that this is pretty interesting, to say the least, because what he's now doing is putting the Democrats of today, without explicitly saying it, he's putting the Democrats of today explicitly at odds with the things FDR is known for fighting for in the minds of the American worker. And I think that that is a really, really strong rhetorical position to stake out. Like, oh, what are you going to do? Fight me and the ghost of FDR? Gonna fight me and all those union workers who busted their asses and like fought in the coal mines? Don't think so.
And you're hearing some not just dismissive, though. There's resentment. And this is from fellow Democrats who think that this could jeopardize Democratic chances in the fall. I mean, you've got Josh Gottheimer, a Democratic member of Congress, says, many of us believe, as do I, if you're a socialist, you are not a Democrat. And in fact, they put out a manifesto today. I don't know, have you seen this thing?
Sounds pretty socialist to me.
It's not a communist manifesto. It's a moderate manifesto.
See, he's weaponized the very concept of being charming. That's crazy. Like, he's able to just like completely defang the attack. He's like, with like a smile. It's crazy. They put out a manifesto. Sounds pretty communist to me. Like, that's a good joke, and it completely like robs the like, even the interviewer here is like chuckling along with him. Like, he even recognizes that that's pretty ironic.
Saying, we are capitalist, not socialist. We believe in a growing, fair, and competitive economy, entrepreneurship, ownership. I mean, this is a direct response, they've made it clear, to what you did here on Tuesday.
Well, I mean, that's great, but what's a party if not its voters? And I'm proud to sit in front of you as the mayor of our city, having received more than 1 million votes, a little less than a year ago. And when we're talking about these incredible congressional candidates...
I'm so glad he was born in Uganda, the South Bronx neighborhood.
Yes, the Uganda South Bronx, New York City. Meaning he can still run for president. Uh-huh. How many issues you think would be resolved if Citizens United was repealed? Obviously not all of them, but like quite a few. Like, we wouldn't have to contend with the billions of dollars being spent on our elections. You know? I think it would be a much... It would make it a lot easier for working people to organize. It would make it a lot easier for working people to organize against the amount of money that could be brought to bear against candidates. And I think also we can, if we organize on the local level, kill Citizens United on a state-by-state basis, right? And I think we can do it.
I can die happy if he does at least one press conference as young Cardamom.
It's true. Genuinely, if Zohran Mamdani came out and performed that song at any kind of rally, do you have any idea how insane the internet would go? Do you guys have any idea? It'd be crazy. The fact that he was like a budding musical artist is nuts. Also, Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. And Peacer, thank you for being a member. Last night I called into an AM radio show that Trump listens to. I said that Zohran Mamdani needs to be the one to disclose aliens because everyone loves him. You know, I think he'd do a good job. Can't SCOTUS just shoot down any state attempt to halt Citizens United? They haven't yet.
They won their races, and they won their races with a vision of what...
And to be clear, SCOTUS can shoot down basically any law, but it's still worth passing said laws.
politics should be, and one that actually speaks to working people. And for a lot of people who ask themselves, what does democratic socialism mean? And you can tell them the answer at a theoretical level. It's the choice to extend democracy from the ballot box the rest of their lives. But in terms of what it means over these last 7 months, we've seen a city with democratic socialist principles at the heart of it within our administration. And what we've delivered has been record lows when it comes to murders and shootings.
So is it pragmatic democratic socialism?
I think democratic socialism at the heart is pragmatic, because if we cannot deliver for working people, then what is this for? I'm not interested in writing a manifesto or frankly in reading one. I'm interested.
This is the thing, right? Like, this is what I love. Because I am the kind of person who will read that manifesto from corporate Democrats because I'm interested in what they're talking about, right? I fully recognize, however, that 99.9% of people in the United States do not give a single rat's ass about any kind of manifesto from anybody, let alone from some of the most uninteresting and uninspiring Democrats in Congress, right? People would rather do basically anything else other than do that. When he says, I'm not terribly interested in writing a manifesto or reading one, do you have any idea how refreshing that is for like an average working person to hear from a political figure who's actually doing shit to help them? It's crazy. This is so fucking effective. And the fact that he's pointing out that what they're doing is ineffective and doesn't actually reach anybody. The only people those manifestos reach, by the way, are us, the politically brain poisoned, and corporate donors. That's it. Those are not words intended for you. Those are words intended to be sent to some corporate shit who's going to give like $10,000 to a super PAC. It is intended to go to someone who has so much money that the kind of financing for an entire campaign is just a drop of water. They don't care. And the fact that he's able to just like point that out so succinctly is crazy.
Interested in delivering, and that's exactly what we've been showing.
But they're saying that if you're a socialist, you're not a Democrat. I mean, is there room in the party for both of these views?
Yes, here I am.
See? Like, look at that! He's brilliant! This is like what he was born to do. It's crazy. And the fact is, I know for a fact he's read theory. I know for a fact he has read theory. I know who his dad is. I know he been raised reading theory. I know he knows his shit. But the point is, he's so much better than just knowing his shit because his rhetoric is so effective. It is insane. He can do what Trump don't, exactly.
Here are so many more. And I think what makes our party a beautiful party is the fact that it's a big tent, that we have
But you've also said it has to be a party with a spine, with a backbone.
Yes,
so
even a tent has to stay up.
Yes, so...
Oh man, he's clowning on this. He's like doing this for fun at this point.
You know, does it have to stand firmly for these ideas that you're talking about that others are calling dangerous?
I think it has to stand for working people. And I think it has to be willing to fight for working people. And I think that there are some who are offended by the prospect of a party that knows who it fights for and goes every day to work for that. Because what we've seen over many years is a willingness to not only explain away the status quo, but frankly even to look to benefit from the status quo. And that's not what working people are looking for from our party.
Like, this is what I mean, guys. Like, he's so good at this. You might not have realized it. That was an attack. He's on the attack against centrist Democrats. He's just so charming that sometimes it's difficult to read it, but like he's out there saying essentially, yeah, we need to be willing to stand for working people, and there are people out there who aren't willing to do that. And you don't have to be a genius to figure out who he's talking about. Oh, they're looking to profit off the status quo. Gee whiz, I wonder who they might be. He doesn't gotta name names.
New Yorkers were going to vote. You said something interesting. You said the race for 2028 starts now, the presidential race. What did you mean by that?
Well, a lot of pundits asked me about this race and what it means and how to think about it. And at the core of Tuesday's results was a message from Democratic voters across the largest city in the United States of America about the kind of politics they want to see. And we know that we oppose the cruelty of the federal administration. What is it that we stand for beyond that?
So you can't just be anti-Trump.
America only has fascists and communists. Democracy was removed from the equation. If democracy was removed from the equation, then corporate interests wouldn't be so interested in buying it.
You can't. You got to have something you are not just willing to stand up for, but that you're also willing to explain how this is relevant to working people. And I think this just comes back to the fact that I'm leading a city that's the wealthiest city in the wealthiest country in the history of the world. I could end a sentence there and say that life is great for 8.5 million people, but it's also a city where 1 in 4 are living in poverty. And for far too many Americans, those contradictions have become their day-to-day life. And we need a party that's able to recognize the strengths of this economy and understand that it hasn't reached enough people.
Now, you know, there's been a lot of attention. One of the candidates you supported who won, who knocked off an incumbent Democrat, is Darlisa Villa-Chevalier. She said some very controversial things, including...
But, like, that's the thing, right? Like, you cannot be going forward if you want success in the Democratic Party in 2026. If you want success in politics at all, you cannot be going out there and just offering "we're not Trump" as the only guidepost for your positions. When we look forward to 2028 and when we look at who is doing well in 2026, it's the people who are offering more than just "we're not Trump." And that's the important thing to really note here. Democrats have to actually offer voters something. And for way too long, nothing has been offered. It's just been protect the status quo. Claw on to what you've got, lest it be taken away from you. While still taking little bits and pieces here and there.
Calling for the abolition of prisons, couldn't say whether or not somebody who had committed murder should be in prison, called for open borders against all deportations, including those of violent criminals. Are those positions that the Democratic Party could win on nationally?
I think what the Democratic Party can win on nationally is a focus on working people. And I think that what I saw from Darlisa when I would walk the streets of her district was a focus on what she describes as a politics of life. She would talk about how we have to invest in babies, not bombs. She's now going to represent what is
Brian, maybe. Thank you very much for the gifted membership.
One of the poorest districts in the United States of America. And what people in that district are exhausted by is a politics that has justified the spending of tens of billions of dollars in killing civilians overseas while working people are struggling just to do the basics.
But how does abolishing prisons or having open borders fit into that? I mean, do you see how those are ideas that a lot of your Democrats that are warning about what happened here say are toxic. Most of America won't go along with it, are bad ideas. They're dangerous ideas.
I think what the focus of her race was, what the focus of her candidacy was about the struggle that working people are facing. And
also, she unseated an establishment Democrat on that message. So clearly, the voters in her district do find it acceptable for her to have those views.
I think that we can have disagreements on policy positions. What we have to agree on is what are we fighting for and who are we fighting for? She showed that in her race, and I think that many people will come to appreciate that in her leadership to come.
So we can
question, does it support you more to watch you through YouTube or Twitch? YouTube, I guess. I don't get ad revenue either way. I guess unless you're watching in vertical chat, which I monetize because so much hate pours through there, I might as well make a buck off of it. But horizontal chat doesn't have ad revenue, doesn't have ads running, and Twitch doesn't pay me for any of the content I make on it, so take your pick.
Disagree on something as basic as whether or not there should be prisons?
That's
not your position.
There are prisons, yes. And what we're also showing in this city is that safety...
Yeah, the most direct way, if you're interested in supporting my channel, the most direct way to do it is over on riverboat.gg, which is the on-screen chat here, which also doesn't have ads, but I just get a larger cut of the revenue through my website.
Is not something that's up for debate. It's something that we're actually delivering on, and I'm proud to be the
why does Twitch not pay you? Because they've labeled my content as political. They they slapped a political tag on it, and my ad revenue went down to like 1 cent per month, and sometimes 0 cents per month, despite the fact that my viewership stayed the same. So.
Mayor of a city that currently has.
It's utterly bullshit, and it's just frankly, I go elsewhere. You guys support the show. I don't get supported by ads.
Has the lowest recorded number of murders and shootings in recorded history in New York City.
So there was also a take. It's not just Democrats. You've probably heard what President Trump had to say about you.
Well, I do get revenue off of the segments that get posted on YouTube that have ads running on them. So I guess I do make money off of those ads.
About the candidates you supported, and he warned.
I'm sorry, I'm not. I'm doing all right. And you know what? I appreciate all y'all watching and supporting the show.
That if socialists win, and he calls you communists, but you will start living in squalor. There'll be no food, no housing, no military, no law and order. There'll be nothing. And he had a few other choice words. By the way, he also said he still likes you. But what do you make of what he? I mean, the Republicans are going to make you the poster child for the Democratic Party.
Let them. We don't have to ask ourselves what life looks like if a socialist wins. I won last November, and over the course of these last 6 months, what we've delivered for working people are the very things we were told were impossible.
Like, it's so brilliant. He's just like, what? Yes, make me the poster child. I'll do it. And honestly, if he is the poster child, like, holy shit, he's the best one we could possibly ask for.
So I'll give you a super instead. Smiley cat face emoji.
Well, thank you very much, secular felinist. Appreciate you, and thank you for the $5 super chat. But he is the best possible face for a socialist political movement. Not only is he rhetorically on point practically 100% of the time, but also he is successful. He has been successful in governing. And that combination is exactly what is making establishment Democrats so angry and afraid.
We've delivered free childcare for 2-year-olds for the first time in New York City history. We've delivered tens of millions of dollars back to tenants who were taken advantage of by bad landlords. We've delivered 165,000 potholes being paved. And we've done all of these.
Oh no, he's filled 165,000 holes? He's held landlords accountable for their slums? Oh no, the horror! Next, you're going to tell me that he's making entire blocks livable again after landlords tried to destroy them in order to up the rent on their rent-controlled apartments by stiffing the city. Oh no! Truly a hellscape.
Things while also delivering the lowest recorded crime in our city's history. That's what it looks like to have democratic socialism. And what you're seeing is that New Yorkers experienced this for 6 months and made the decision that they wanted to see more of it on the national stage as well.
Can a democratic socialist get elected president?
I think a democratic socialist can get elected.
You have to be to think that workers actually hold a negative view of immigrants.
Right? They don't. Like, it's just buying into the propaganda, you know? Crazy stuff. Also, can we just talk real quick? I'm seeing a lot of people being like, oh, 165,000 holes, you say. Just a quick reminder that, yes, the conservative media was absolutely going crazy about how many holes got filled. Official DNC Instagram graphic read, holes filled, over a photo of New York Mayor Zohran Mamdani, prompting one user to ask, what the fuck is this? Are they not going to post it? Did they not put it in the article? They didn't put it in the article. No. Was it too risque? Yes. Look, sometimes they let certain staffers post on the DNC account, and sometimes magic happens, okay? All right. So sometimes they make things they make magic happen, guys. God, 66,000 holes filled.
Anywhere across this country for any position, what I think we need to bring is a focus on working people.
And that's the direction that the party should go in terms of selecting a candidate for 2028.
I think the direction that the party should go in is how best to fight for working people. I think we need to have a platform and a vision that doesn't sound as if it was cooked up by consultants, but instead one that you would say in response to someone who's asking, why can't I afford my rent? Why can't I afford my groceries? Why can't I afford my childcare? We need to make clear who we stand for, how we're going to stand for them, and that we're actually willing to fight for them when the going gets tough.
Obviously, Israel was a big issue in these races. Not the only issue, but a big issue. Is there room in the Democratic Party for candidates, officials who support Israel, not just support Israel, but support military aid for Israel? This was a huge issue for you.
Well, I think what we've seen is that the time for us as elected officials to pronounce what the party should be is one that should come to an end, and we should let Democratic voters themselves take the lead. And we've seen on Tuesday evening, we saw Democrats turn out in districts across the city to make clear that they were tired of tens of billions of dollars being spent in our taxpayer dollars to violate international law, to kill thousands of civilians. And you and I know that right now, the way that Palestine is described is as if there is a ceasefire. That's the way.
It's true. Also, can we just note for a moment that the advantage Zohran Mamdani and his entire slate of candidates have is that they have all been elected in one of the bluest regions of the entire country. So the argument that oh, well, is there room in the party for this, is they are representative of where the Democratic heart is right now. This is the new power base. This is the new axis around which everything else orbits. And I think that that is incredible. I think that that is, seeing it happen is genuinely surreal. And yeah, exactly. 3 years ago, the question would be if there was room for anti-Israel politicians or pro-Palestinian politicians. And it's insane that this is where things are now because of the string of victories spearheaded by Zohran Mamdani. And I think that, one, that indicates that we're winning. And two, that indicates that now they're asking him if there's room for them. And the question clearly is answered not by Zohran Mamdani, but by the voters of New York. The voters have decided and elected pro-Palestinian candidates who want to end the genocide. The voters are stepping up. And that, I think, is incredibly cool to see.
Language that's typically used. Yeah. More than 1,000 Palestinians have been killed in that ceasefire. And what New Yorkers want to see is a politics of conscience, a politics of clarity, a politics of conviction. And to follow international law, to believe in the humanity of all people, it shouldn't be a journey too far. And I think that our party needs to hear what Democrats are telling it.
Democratic Socialists of America now says they no longer favor a two-state solution. Is that the way you see it as well? The idea of two states, Palestinian, Jewish state side by side living in peace?
The way I see it is equal rights for all people. And I think that that's the truth for Israel. It's the truth for any country in the world. And frankly, as we're coming up close to the 250th anniversary of our nation, one of the things that makes me proudest to be an American is the belief that equal rights are at the bedrock of our notion of what it means to be an American.
And the idea of a Jewish state, Israel is a Jewish state, that's in the charter. That's the way it is now. Do you support that?
I've said time and again that I support the state of Israel as a state with equal rights. I believe that any state that preferences...
But as a Jewish state is the question.
I think any state that privileges one religion over the other is one that I can't tell you I support, whether it be Israel or Saudi Arabia or anywhere else. And a lot of that comes back to a fundamental belief that we should all be considered equal no matter what our faith is.
How?
God damn, he's so good at this. God damn, he's good at this. It should not be controversial to say with your full chest, I do not support states that create tiered systems of human rights. I do not support states that create apartheid systems. That shouldn't be controversial. And I think every interviewer that has ever asked him that question and gotten some formulation of that response immediately realizes that they're the assholes in this situation. Like it is not a good look on these particular interviewers to ask this question. But it has been so unquestioned for so long that it's fascinating to see him dismantle it.
How big a problem, you said it's rising, is anti-Semitism in this city?
We've seen anti-Semitism rise in this city. We've seen the fact that Jewish New Yorkers comprise a minority of our city's population and yet continue to constitute a majority of the hate crimes that have been purveyed in this city. And that's something that's unacceptable. It's something that we will never come to see as if it is a part of life. It's something that has to be fought and rooted out of every one of the 5 boroughs.
What did you think when Dan Goldman, that coffee shop in Brooklyn, said that they wouldn't serve him because of his support for Israel? You have a problem with, I mean, the idea of, you know, of a establishment like that saying they're not going to serve somebody if they support Israel?
I've said that I have political disagreements with Congressmember Goldman. I do believe that that's a response that goes beyond that.
So that's not the right kind of thing?
No, I think it's much better to keep that critique in the way that we've done it.
Okay, so we're just about out of time.
You know what's great when Zohran Mamdani says that? I think it's much better to keep the critique in the way that we've done it. Is that he took Goldman's job, right? Like they voted him out of power. They got him out of power. Like that. The critique here is people hated that so much that you lost your job. Yeah, he just told them to fuck off without saying fuck off. Exactly. That's like what's incredible. I could never do what Zohran does because I'm just too direct. I'm too direct and abrasive.
I asked you, I noticed that you're turning 35 soon, right?
In a few months, yes.
So you now hit one of the constitutional requirements to run for president. But there's another one that says you have to be a natural-born citizen. You were not born here.
Yes.
But do you think that's something that should be changed in the Constitution? It would take an amendment, but do you think that we should change that?
No.
No.
I think the Constitution looks good the way it is.
Just the way it is.
Just the way it is. I'm very excited to focus on New York City. But thank you for reminding me of my upcoming 35 mortality.
Years old.
Number one, it is insane. It is insane that he's 34 right now. And number two, like, the fact that he's being asked within the first year of being elected as mayor about whether or not the Constitution should be changed so that he can become president. Guys, this guy is going to be politically active for the rest of your lives. He's already this popular a year in. There is a decent chance if you give him another 15 years to cook, 25 years to cook, this man literally could finesse his way into changing the Constitution to become president. And of course, like right now, he can't say, hell yeah, let's change the Constitution and make me president, because that's going to go so poorly in the press. And he knows that, which is why he's just like, ha ha ha, and then redirects it to his mortality. Like, I think that was a perfect response. And Superjet Guy, I see your response being like, there are other things that we could change about the Constitution. Absolutely there are, but that was not the time to make that case, right? Because the question that was really being asked is, do you want to be president someday? And the answer that he gave was effectively, no, don't be silly. Ha ha ha, I'm going to die someday. Tee-hee. And like, that's disarming. It's charming. It makes people like him more in the context of America, where the Constitution, by your average Joe, is viewed as something that is kind of sacrosanct, right? And that is, like, if he had said, yes, let's change it in any way, in any capacity, it would have actively damaged an effort to change it potentially in the future, or sullied it in the press and it would have become like a whole thing. Because what he says, people hang on his every word, for better and worse. And so I think what he did there was understand what was actually being asked and disarmed it like a fucking bomb. And I think that the fact that he's being asked is fascinating and indicates the level of political capital being attributed to him right now is truly revolutionary. Like, this is like verging on in some territory where, like, if we get like some establishment Democrats in office instead of progressives going forward, but he continues to gain in popularity, I'd be worried about some kind of Martin Luther King Jr. FBI situation, you know? Like, I would genuinely be worried about his safety, because this level of political capital so early in his career, it's like holding a sun in the palm of your hand. One wrong move and everything could go up in smoke, right? He's babby in political terms, and he right now is holding the most amount of political capital in his hand that I have ever seen a modern politician hold. And like maybe Obama. And I do think that, like, it makes me worried. It makes me worried for his personal safety. And like, I do think that obviously the movement is larger than him, but right now his importance to the movement is quite extreme. And I think that, you know, give it another few years, it won't be quite as important, though I still think he'll be prominent. But I think there's still a lot of work to do, you know? I think that if we give it time, like if Zohran is still in the lead and still finessing like this, I think he could genuinely become president. I have no worry about him. Let me put it this way. I have no worries about someone not being born in the United States becoming president. I have no fear about that. I think that if somebody born elsewhere comes to America and becomes an American citizen, they should be able to also be president. It's kind of horseshit that that's not how it works. I don't think he'll be MLK'd. I don't know. A lot of people probably didn't think Martin Luther King would be Martin Luther King'd by the FBI. You know, a lot of people wouldn't have thought the FBI would be writing letters to Martin Luther King Jr. trying to convince him to kill himself. But here we are. What an insane thing that is a true fact about history. He'll never become president. The courts won't allow it. You need to change the Constitution for it to happen. That I am fully aware that is what is required to become president of the United States. What I'm saying is, I can very easily, fuck, even Republicans like him. And genuinely, by the time he's ready to make any kind of attempt like that, if it was something he's even interested in, I don't doubt that he'd have the political capital to do it. Because I don't think he would expend it on a failed attempt.
35 years old. All right.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, thank you very much.
Pleasure.
God, he even has a good handshake. He's so good. He's so good at this shit. Anyway, the only thing I have to add here is this specific post that Zohran Mamdani posted on his personal account on Twitter on June 23rd at 10:16 p.m. It's the last thing I have to add to this entire discussion.
There's a lot of people that have a lot of negative stuff to say. There's a lot of people who have a lot of opinions. But when you prove them wrong, you really don't have to say shit to them.
Like, that's what that man really thinks in his heart. That's what Zohran Mamdani really thinks behind all the rhetoric. And you know what? He's not fucking wrong. If you got anything out of this, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment, let me know what you think about this entire thing. Also, folks, Organize. Join your local Dems. Join your local DSA. Let's get involved, folks. If you need help joining up, join our Discord. Reach out to Gamergy for help organizing your local DSA. And reach out to Dragonfly for help joining and organizing with your local Dems. We need to get those corporate Democrats out of power. We need to get more effective DSA structure. We need to get more effective working class politicians elected. And that is what we can do by getting involved in these two groups. So get involved today, folks. If you haven't yet, it's time to start going to some meetings. It's time to start knocking some doors. It's time to start phone banking. It's time to start doing the shit. So please, I hope you'll get involved. And last but not least, folks, check out ImogeneOlivia.com. Gender euphoric lingerie designed from the ground up for trans femmes, tested with cis men, cis women, non-binary folks. It is comfortable, sexy, non-tucking lingerie. Check it out, ImogeneOlivia.com. Link down in the description. Let's keep on going.
Riverboat deck is coming to town. All the viewers gather around. Twitch and YouTube and Swishy streams. All that content is bursting the scenes. Politics, being plenty more. Your sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord.